Today, we are thrilled to have Aisha Corpas Wynn, a voice that resonates with power and passion across all airways. Aisha is not just a thought leader, but also a vibrant host of her very own podcast, The AI Chicks, where they discuss technology and innovation in the Hollywood and non-traditional spaces. So she shares her insights, and you want to grab a pen and paper because she drops some gems today. Let's check it out.
So we want to jump in. You went to UC Santa Barbara.
Yes.
And you was accepted at college at age 16.
Yes.
That is insane. Like, where did you grow up to have that high of
You're
education?
hilarious. Well, okay, so a little backstory. I'm like first generation American in my family.
Wow.
My parents are from Panama. And so when you're first generation and you have immigrant parents, anyone who's first generation or, with immigrant parents, they know, even if you have one immigrant parent, even if you have an immigrant grandmother, you know that the expectations from them are, really put at a very high level. And it's a very demanding level of what they expect out of the generation that is growing up in America compared to how they grew up, that type of scenario and generational gap. And so basically for my parents, like a C was an F and an A was an A. There was no middle. It was like, oh, you're growing up in America. Like you have no excuse to like not understand how to do things. Like you guys have all the opportunities here. That's how it was. America was presented to them.
100%.
And then you come to America for a better life, opportunities, all the air quotes that America portrays to other countries. And so at that time, me growing up here and my parents, only being in America for a couple of years before they had me, those expectations were very high. And so I was just very much the quintessential, like, high achiever, over deliverer since a child.
Wow.
And so I was always doing really well in school.
Why is that? Why was that? It was just something that was just
innately
in you?
born in you?
Yeah, I guess so. So. Like, I always did well in school because there was no other option. Like your parents were not going to accept barely passing.
Mediocre.
Yeah, they just weren't. So I was just, my belief system, it was just like, oh, I have to show up and show out and over deliver. And if the teacher says, get all of this done in a week, I got to get it done in 3 days.
Right.
So there was just that hard working instilled into me since a child, and you're seeing all of the other immigrants around you and your parents, everyone just working hard, hustling to really do well. So when you're surrounded by that energy and that mentality, it was just the only thing I knew.
It was easy for you.
Yeah, it was just the only thing I knew was to work hard and focus. And if you put your attention to it and you focused on it, it would deliver.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I always was a part of a lot of different other, activities. So as I'm also doing my academics, I was also being like a professionally trained dancer. So I was doing like ballet, jazz, hip hop, all of that. So I was used to being very high functioning, high achieving, where a lot of other people's like, if they're going to do academics, they're only focusing on academics.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to do sports, you hyper focusing only on sports, where like my parents were raising me to hyper focus on it all.
It's crazy. Your parents was raising you to be multi-hyphenate.
Actually, yes. Yes. Without knowing that terminology at the time, but that's exactly what they were doing. And I was so used to that once I was no longer dancing, I just moved that energy into entertainment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then when I was out of school but working in entertainment, then I was moving that energy, the additional energy, into another training or another specialty. So I'm just always was very used to being high functioning with always learning and always generating and producing.
Right.
Now, where did that love, I guess, where did that spark for entertainment come from? Did your parents come here and always want to pursue a career deep down? Because our parents, my mom moved from Haiti to New York. Well, she moved from Haiti to France, then from France to New York, and she wanted to become a model. But she never told us this until like later. We had to find out.
We were in like our 20s.
Yeah, we're in our 20s.
Oh, really?
We found old headshots of her, and we're like, Mom, what is this? Oh, I was pursuing a career in modeling. And then she moved from New York to LA. So I want to know if your parents had a similar journey where like they aspired to do something, but then, life happened and they kind of took a different route?
No, I mean, they really moved to the U.S., and a lot of Panamanians during that time moved to the U.S. just to get out of the I want to make sure I'm using the right word here, but all of the political unrest of their country. So, I mean, I'm sure that they also had, sorry, say that clearly. I'm sure that they also had aspirations and liked what they were seeing in LA and Hollywood entertainment, but they didn't move to the US for that. It was mainly truly just about getting out of the political unrest in Panama at that time. And so what really, I would say, gravitated me towards entertainment, I mean, my parents were creative people, even though that they didn't pursue entertainment as a career. But they were naturally dancers. They were naturally into the arts. But that's also like a Latin family type of thing. Like a lot of, and not just Latin, but even like Black households, Caribbean. Like you're dancing, you're laughing, you're
having fun.
Yeah, you're having fun.
Because we didn't have much, so we had to create things.
Exactly, you're creating with what you have, and different people have just different natural artistic abilities, and so I grew up around that, but it was never instilled in me to have to be in the entertainment industry. I had a natural knack for dance, so my parents had naturally put me in dance. And I was a professionally trained ballerina, performed at a young age in like the Harlem Nutcracker, and was really pursuing being basically like a Misty Copeland type. I wanted to go to Juilliard's and do all of that. And then I had the quintessential ballerina, injury, which is you break your ankle at such a harsh level that you can't train in the way that you used to. And so I started, again, moving that energy into other things within the arts. So that same energy and training 8 hours a day for dance, when I wasn't doing that anymore, I moved that energy over to playing instruments. So it was like I learned how to play the piano, I played the guitar, I dabbled in drums. And so I was always having this like outlet that I needed to get with expression and creative expression. And so what made me want to actually pursue entertainment as like a profession is when I was in high school, I was at a performing arts theater high school, and I just saw all of these very talented high school kids. And
what high school did you go to? Was it in LA?
LA, Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
To describe the environment during that time, I guess it was in late 90s, 2000s.
90s. High school in 90s?
No, I was actually in high school in the 90s.
See? Yes. That's what I'm saying. Like,
late 90s.
We both were in high school.
No, we wasn't. We was in middle school in the 90s.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so late 90s.
First of all, well, let me do. My brother always aged us forward.
Like, I feel like
I
I'm
have to
40
stop
years
him.
old.
He always like, we're 38. I'm like, we haven't even 30 yet. Why you do this? He always ages forward. I'm like,
that's so funny. Yeah. So no, I was in high school in the late 90s, but basically like I, saw all of these kids just super talented, where you're doing academics, but then you're also doing all of this musical theater. Yeah. So you're at school for much longer than the average kid.
Yeah. 100%.
And so it was a reality show. It was like a documentary. And so again, having very supportive parents, I wanted to film like the behind the scenes of everything happening at this performing arts school.
Really?
So I was that kid going around filming everybody.
Oh my gosh. Your documentary is going to be crazy.
And so I edited together this video for the musical theater team, for the musical theater department of all the kids, like about what, like everything going on, basically like a behind the scenes documentary. And I didn't realize at the time that I was producing.
Wow.
I was just like filming everything, documenting everything. And then my parents, again, very supportive. They paid for an editor for me to sit down with an editor and edit together this short documentary film of the musical theater department and the students at that time and the musicals that we were doing at that time. I was like following everyone and documenting it. And so I put this presentation together. And then after one of the musicals had wrapped, we had like a viewing party, and I played it for everyone, and everyone loved it. And everyone was and a few people were like, you just did all of this? Like, how did you do all of this by yourself? And I was like, well, obviously, again, I had my parents help, and they financed some of this. They bought me the camera. They paid to help me get an editor to finish it out. They were like, that you basically just like directed and executive produced this whole entire thing. And I was like, executive producing was like, I knew what directing was. I knew what writing was at the time. You know all the mainstream stuff of entertainment, especially and especially for people of color. Like, they're always pushing the more mainstream stuff. They're not telling
the intricacies.
They're not telling young people of color, like, you could be a casting director. You can be a hair and music. A hair and makeup artist for people behind the camera, not just at a salon. Like, there's all of these things that we're not being encouraged to pursue. So I know it sounds weird to everyone. There's like, how did you not know at 14 years old that there was a role of an executive producer? It just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't resonate with me.
We're not introduced to that world until someone introduces it.
Exactly. So once the light bulb came on, then I was like, oh, okay. So then once I knew that there were all of these producer roles behind the scenes that you weren't really paying attention to as a kid, you're not reading the credits really at that time. So I then, obviously then I went into the internet and started researching everything myself, and I was like, oh, snaps. Like, there's a whole other career and successful world that you can do in entertainment that's not being in front of the camera and not being a writer or a director. And so that is when I realized, like, oh, and I did that without even thinking about it. Like, it came so natural. I executive produced this whole entire thing, and it didn't feel like work. And then I saw the impact that it had on everyone that got to see it, and I was like, ooh, I want to continue to have that impact for others. And also just seeing the way entertainment has an impact on people across the board. I mean, what music, sports, movies, and TV shows, they've brought people together. They've saved people's lives.
Shaped culture.
Yeah, they've shaped culture. They've informed people. And so I just really had the epiphany that, like, if I'm going to have a career where I'm spending every day, all day working on something, I want to be part of something that has a positive impact. And I just felt that what I had just done didn't even feel like work. And I realized, like, oh, I just have a natural knack for this, and decide to pursue that. So as I was having a very easy time doing all the academics and flying through school, and I wasn't pursuing dance and music, then I took that energy and started producing content and things of that nature, again, just on the side as I'm also doing my academics. And I was, again, very advanced when it came to the academics. And so I ended up finishing high school in 3 years.
Wow.
And then ended up going to UCSB for college. And think about this. The wild part is I didn't have parents that went to college in the United States. So I didn't have, and I was surrounded by a lot of other immigrants. It wasn't like we were hanging out with a bunch of other Americans. A lot of immigrants tend to hang out with each other. And then the other Americans they know are through work. So the other Americans I knew were through the neighborhood I grew up in, the neighbors, and school. So I didn't have a lot of people talking about HBCUs or Harvard or things like that. It was like I was learning either through the Americans around me, even though I was American, I was learning American culture through Americans around me, TV, or what I was seeing, on the internet. Like, that was my touch point of like what I could potentially learn or know how to do. And so I ended up going to UCSB, and it was wild. My parents didn't know that it was like the #1 party school at the time.
Oh my God.
And it was like one of the top party schools. And so everyone was like, when their coworkers found out, like, wait, you're letting your daughter go to like your 16-year-old daughter go to one of the like top party schools in the United States. It's like they didn't know that.
Did you choose a major? And when you got accepted, you was like, all right, I'm going to go down the entertainment route. I'm going to do majors in multimedia or communications.
I knew that I was going to be a film major. And I started interning every year at different entertainment companies because, again, I didn't have the resources where I didn't have the uncle that knew somebody who could get me an intern or a page or somewhere at
Warner Brothers.
or CAA and things of that nature. So I realized that I had to intern, and my mom and my parents like helped me. Really, my mom helped drive and looking for internships online, and I literally got my first internship when I was 15. And then every year while I was in college, I would come back to LA every summer and intern, and then go back to UCSB, take all of my film courses, come back to LA, intern. I was doing that for basically, my whole entire college career.
What were your duties as an intern at 15 years old?
I mean, they were just having me, literally, it was the most basic thing, like admin things. So
Admin things.
they were having me like organizing the tape stock. It was very simple stuff, but the awareness of the people that are around, the things that I was learning and seeing just by being in that environment was extremely helpful, and the industry is your network. And so I was meeting a lot of people at a very young age that I would have never met in any other way.
Mentally, you're growing up really fast.
Oh, yes, definitely. And what ended up happening was I had a level of naiveness that actually worked in my favor. So when I was meeting people at these companies, they would say, stay in touch.
Right.
They would say, oh, well, when
Hollywood stuff.
But I didn't know that was Hollywood stuff. So I was taking it as Bible.
Yeah.
Like if they told me to stay in touch, I was actually staying in touch.
Right.
When they told me, oh, circle back around with us when you graduate and we'll help get you a job. I took that as
gold.
Yes, as word. So that's exactly what I did. I stayed in touch with them. I remember when their birthday was. I remember if they were Jewish and to say Happy Hanukkah. I was engaged.
Wow.
And so when I was graduating, I literally emailed those people who said, hit me up when you're about to graduate and we'll help you get a job. And I made them accountable. I sent them emails and I was like, I'm about to graduate, and I, graduated with honors on the dean's. Like I gave them all of the accolades so that they could feel like, oh, I'm gonna help someone who is committed. And even in my internships, I was always over delivering. So they already saw my work ethic, and they saw that if you give me something, I'm gonna do it to even help you look good.
Right.
And so it was like, why wouldn't they help that person? Right? Because it was also benefiting them.
Right.
Taking things off of their plate, and whatever I did, it also helped them look polished and good and organized and things of that nature. So before I even graduated college, I had 2 job offers and 2 job opportunities to work for on 2 different HBO shows.
Oh my gosh. Now, did you immediately jump into it, or are you saying, I'm going to take a break and kind of like reassess my life? Because you're still, if you're graduating, if you go into college at 16, you're probably graduating maybe 20.
18.
This gets, okay, you guys are really wanting to hear my life story.
I want to hear deep. We want to figure out what makes you take it, how you become so successful in life. And we
at an early
age.
Mentally, if you're 15 going into college, 16, then we're about 20.
Because you don't get to experience like, boyfriends and like relationships.
Yeah, I wasn't focusing on too much of that. And I was like, I can figure that out later.
Yeah.
I mean, even social skills. I mean, interacting with people and how to deal with disappointments.
Yes.
That came a little bit later, I guess.
Yes, well, and also too, I'm giving very high level, stories here, but like there were hardships, and I had to learn things along the way. So it definitely was helping me build the grit and the hustle. And I was a lot of times in rooms where I was either the only female or the youngest or the only person of color or all 3.
Right. Yeah.
So that was also helping mold me to
step into those rooms.
To handle tough situations, because I wasn't just hanging out with everyone who spoke like me, talked like me, looked like me.
Yeah.
So I was always the other. I was always the exception, and I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I had to get comfortable with being the outlier in situations. So I was growing a different type of thick skin and grit than other young people at the time. But to answer your question, I actually finished my degree in 3 years in college.
Wow.
So I technically finished my degree at 19, but my friends at school were doing the same thing you're doing right now. They were like, oh my God, Aisha, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, why?
They were like, you can enjoy.
Can you chill?
Yeah, they were just like, why are you always taking the max amount of units every semester?
Yeah.
Like, why? And so they were like, you can just take other courses. Like you don't have to only just fly through
college, yeah.
like film studies.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, so like I can take all these other courses that are like not like only my major.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, like just take some other courses and like hang out for a year
Right.
and just do college stuff.
Right.
Figure it out.
Yeah. So I hopefully like the feds aren't listening, but that, then I started like drinking like that last year of college. I was like not 21,
Right.
but drinking and having that like college experience being part of the
social club.
Yeah. Being part of the UCSB like party life. I didn't really do too much of that my first 2 to 3 years. I mean, I was having fun.
Yeah,
I wasn't completely nerding out. I was having fun, and I am super social and outgoing, but I wasn't doing it to the extent that the average college student was. So my last year was definitely the year of experimenting, getting into trouble, drinking way too much, knowing what a hangover is, things like that. And then I was also then taking a lot of electives of other courses that I thought were interesting that I wasn't focusing on my first 3 years. So I did end up still staying a fourth year. But yes, I did graduate college before I was 21. So I was around 19, 20. And then, I had those 2 job opportunities from HBO.
So then you go to Studio and Network
Right away.
after college.
Yeah.
And jumping into Studio Network, it's Hollywood, and you have no background in Hollywood whatsoever. So do you feel a little bit intimidated? Do you have imposter syndrome when you're stepping into these rooms?
No,
especially at the age of 19.
Definitely by that time I was 20. And but still very young and naive. And I was starting at the bottom. Like I was still just assisting PAing on projects and stuff like that. And I really just looked at it as being a sponge. I was taking it as an opportunity to learn how you do it on the professional level. Because obviously in college, you are filmmaking, you are producing, but it's not the same when you're doing that level of work on a professional set.
Yeah.
And I even say that to a lot of like content creators. Like I love content creation and the YouTubers and the influencers of the world, the TikTokers of the world. They don't necessarily need to be in that universal HBO Netflix setting, but it is a different beast when when you're building a content empire independently versus when you're doing content with Paramount Studios or Sony Studios. There are a lot of things that are very, very different.
It's a structure thing.
Yeah, when you're working with 100 people on set versus when it's you and 4 or 5 other people.
Right.
So I think that that's really where my growth was happening there, because I was interning at these different companies, learning and meeting people, and then I was filmmaking college student film projects, and everything was on a smaller independent scale.
Right.
So
wearing multiple hats.
Exactly. So to start seeing what a 50-person, 100-person, 200-person crew and team looks like, the workflow, all of the different dynamics, the wrangling of 100 extras, like those are whole other beasts of production. So I just really, I obviously, as always, the quintessential, first generation American syndrome. Like I was always over delivering whatever I needed to do, but I was absorbing everything as well.
And what did your parents say when you got introduced into the studio life? And they're like, "Oh, she made it! She finally is here!" She's like, are they excited or they were reserved?
I think they were definitely excited about it. I think that the lines started to blur where, when they started, like especially for my mom, like when you think about your kid being in entertainment, then it starts crossing like, oh, are you going to be on billboards? Like, are you going to do something?
Are you the star or are you the
Are you going to
person?
start doing something that takes you to be like an Oprah or Queen Latifah or Beyonce? So it like that's where the line started to blur, where then I was just like, no, I don't want to be in front of the camera. Or like, yes, I could do in front of the camera things, or I know these celebrities, but I don't care that they're famous. It was things like that. Where I was really focusing on it as a career, where they were getting, not just my parents, but a lot of people around me who weren't in entertainment, they were getting excited by the glitz and the glam. And I was just looking at it like as a career.
We're going to get into the glitz and glam a little bit later, but we also, you also did something at MTV where you started show running and like producing high level content.
Yes,
So what was your first producing gig? Or from like
Pretty much a threshold of high level.
high level.
Got it. I would say, so one of the stages of my career was after I, got past the PAing and all of that and the assistant level. I started working at New Line Cinema, in which I got very, very blessed to be in a department that was about developing and producing all different types of content. We were the team. We were called the television department, but we weren't really just television. We were the department that needed to extend their IP. So they had New Line
I
Cinema.
want to back up.
Yeah.
How did you get introduced into New Line Cinema? Was it someone you knew from your previous jobs?
No, I had applied.
Oh, wow.
And okay, so I had applied for a position, assistant position, that I ended up not getting, and I was really, really bummed. But the irony was, God works in mysterious ways, y'all.
He
The irony was that it's because the HR person knew that there was a different job opening that was going to open up in like a few months, and that I would be a better fit. But I didn't know that at the time. But so when I didn't get it, because it felt like it was just like the right fit for me,
Right.
I was like the company culture, the people, everything, it just felt a really great synergy. I just felt like I was supposed to be working there.
Right.
So when I didn't get the job that I originally applied for, I was extremely bummed. And then,
fine, I'll take this one.
Yeah, and then like a couple months later, I get called for this other job, and it was basically like I still had to go interview for it, but I
Right.
basically had the job.
Right.
That's
you know?
crazy because you applied for something, they rejected you in a way, but then they called you back.
Yeah, I was already getting earmarked for a future
Right.
role that I didn't even know about, and so I ended up working at New Line in this new division, and it really was the beginning of the culmination of where I'm at today. So I learned, because we were looking at all of their different IP and how to offshoot them into new content, I learned how to develop and produce all different types of programming, because we were looking at their film library saying, let's do this as an animated series.
Yes.
Let's do this as an unscripted. Let's do this as a limited series.
Name drop some of those. we want the team.
Well, I mean, like you're talking about New Line Cinema that has like a library of Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Friday,
Yeah.
Blade, like, I mean, the list goes on and on. And so being a part of a company at that caliber, and then having the access and the blessing to be like, hey, we have this IP, this library of IP, make more magic with it. And so I had great bosses / mentors at the time that knew a lot of different people in Hollywood and all different sides of the business. And as their coordinator, they allowed me to be in those meetings, be on calls, be in rooms, and be a part of things that normally coordinators at the time were not a part of.
Yeah.
So I was meeting people, learning all the ins and outs, and they were allowing me to be hands-on as a coordinator. That again, normally your assistant, your coordinator stays outside of the meeting, just listens in on the calls, doesn't even come to the meetings.
Right.
And I was being included in everything.
Wow.
And again, it was more of me in these professional settings, being the youngest, being the only female, being the only person not of color, being the only person of color, or being all three.
Wow.
And I was building my network. It was all of a sudden now at a very young age, in my early 20s, I'm knowing all of the agents, the managers, celebrities, people in animation, scripted and unscripted. I'm in meetings with Ashton Kutcher. I'm in meetings with Little John. Like, it was I didn't realize it at the time, but I was being groomed for like what God wanted me to do today.
Right.
And so
What were some key takeaways that you said, okay, this is exactly what I learned at this particular moment? Was it more or less developing how to put packaging?
It was
marketing?
definitely development and how to address people at different levels. Like how to handle maneuvering in different rooms with different types of people, and understanding how to read the room, understanding what's important to different types of people. I think that in entertainment, I'm really going to give a gem away here, you guys.
Please.
I think in entertainment, a lot of people are so focused on what they need, what they want, and not also understanding what is the other person getting out of that transaction or out of that collaboration.
Right.
And so I really understood at a young age, being in all of these different rooms at a very high level, that, why this A-list actor is enticed or incentivized to do this is different from this manager and different from this publicist and different from this studio executive. So when you start to speak their language to them, they're going to respond to you differently. And so in addition to learning how to develop all different types of projects and learning what it takes from a budget, a packaging level, all of those things, I was learning that at a very young age and early time in my career. But it was also how to present and sell and collaborate and negotiate with all of these different types of people. Because what benefits the agent is very, very different than what is beneficial for the talent
100%.
and what's beneficial for the studio executive versus the production company executive, right? And I understood how all of those factors came together. So I took all of that knowledge, and me and a really good friend of mine, actually from New Line, decided to start our own production company. And so we took all this knowledge that we had from a very amazing studio with very high level experience people, and took all of that knowledge and those capabilities and ended up starting our own production company. And so the unique thing about that is the caliber of our work was like the caliber of New Line.
studio.
Yeah, the caliber of a studio. And everyone was like, how are these young 20-year-old
Women are producing content at a high level.
like producers doing this at this level? And we had at the time,
Use Issa Rae before Issa Rae.
I'm baby Issa Rae, but like I never put myself in front of the camera, and I think that's the difference. Like Issa Rae is definitely on that caliber of Oprah and Queen Latifah
100%.
and Tyra Banks. Like she is so multi-talented and multifaceted on how she built her empire, and she really established herself as like a known figure and face in entertainment.
Right.
I always stayed in the shadows. I was always behind the scenes. So there are projects out there. There are things that are produced. There are things that are created that like I had a hand in that like no one knows I had a hand in. Yeah. Right. So, but in a weird way, I preferred it like that.
Right.
I was developing concepts for people, and people didn't know that I was the one who developed it, and I was like ghostwriting in a way.
Yeah.
You know, so it's those types of things that I was doing that I was completely fine with, that my mom, bringing it full circle, was like, you know,
Maybe you gotta get out there.
Yeah, why aren't you getting all the glory? Like, why aren't you on the red carpet? Why aren't you doing all of this? And it's like, because I wasn't looking for that. I'm not saying
that wasn't your lane.
Yeah, that wasn't my goal. I just really cared about bringing amazing projects out to the public that were impactful.
What is some key packages like that you say, okay, this is what a studio is looking for?
Yeah, you said the transaction between the filmmaker and the studio, they have to benefit both parties.
Yeah.
So if you could explain to us
Some of the key elements in packaging.
So when you have a project, everyone's like, oh, I just have this great idea. It's like, that's great.
Right.
But for a studio, what's important is they have to put together a trailer that the mass public or the global market looks at in 30 seconds or a minute and wants to see it. Right? So that's great that you have this amazing script. And yes, the movie or the TV series needs to maintain their attention and captivate them. But what are those other factors that are going to get the people to even tune in?
Right.
Like, what is the discoverability percentage of what you're bringing to them? So it's about, notoriety, notability. So who's a director? If you're an unknown writer, then get a director attached with some cachet. Or if you're a director with a really great concept, find an actor that has some cachet or leverage to help
you produce
help with the discoverability of that project. So it's about who you attach to the projects. For example, as well, with the actual content itself, it's like, what's that hook? What is that? What is something different about it that if they see 2 seconds of it in a trailer, it hooks them to want to watch it?
Yeah.
Or is it the subject matter? Is it a subject matter that is super familiar, but it's a new thing about it that they've never seen before? I'll use just a quick example, like Tinder Swindler. Everybody knows Tinder, but they didn't hear this. They've never heard the Swindler story, of Tinder. So it was something familiar, but revealing and new. So, and that hook that Tinder Swindler had to everybody in, even though there weren't big names involved, there weren't celebrities involved. It wasn't.
It was
those
built up
other
on a brand that was already
exactly.
placed.
There's some sort of hook that hooks people in, or you're gonna have a salacious hook, right? Like a lot of unscripted shows, especially in the 90s and 2000s, they use fighting and drama and pulling people's weaves and throwing drinks in each other's faces to hook people in.
Right.
I'm not saying that's the way you should hook people in. I'm just saying there is a formula to it.
Yeah.
It's either a celebrity's name or a notable brand, or a facet of that creative project that hooks people in, or something salacious or revealing. It's a human nature, it's a psyche thing. There's things that humans naturally get hooked on that brings them in.
Just like selling water. What you sell water, but you can add electrolytes, add flavor to it.
Exactly.
Put a Dwayne Johnson holding this water. So now it becomes a viable product.
Exactly. So that's what the studios need. They need some sort of element from your script or in your packaging that it feels like, oh, if I put first of all, I have to sail this up the ladder.
Right. Yeah,
right.
true.
So you're only meeting with one of the development executives or senior executive, who then has to get the president or the CEO who wasn't in the meeting sometimes, they have to get them to sign off. So it's the same thing. It's the same difference. What's going to hook them to be like, oh yeah, let's put millions behind this, because I think that millions and billions of people are going to want to watch it. 100%. So I think that a lot of creatives forget about the business side of it.
Yes.
They are just like, this is such a great story, or like, the public should really, really know about it. It's like, yes, they really should, but there is a sales element to this that people tend to forget about. So when you're presenting and talking to a studio, or a distributor or a network, you have to take those factors into consideration. And when you do, you make their job easier, because you have those ingredients and those elements for them to then bake the red velvet cake that they need to serve it to their boss and to the public.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. But if you don't bring them all the ingredients, that means that then they got to go out and get some ingredients. You just put more work on their plate.
Right.
And so sometimes they're willing to do that if what you bring them has a big factor to it, right? Like, so, frankly, there are people who are doing very little but getting a lot of sales in the marketplace, but it's because they have some extra other cachet that they're bringing to the table. Also, money talks, right? So if you are saying, hey, I have a movie or a TV series and I have someone who's willing, or I'm financing, or I have someone who's willing to finance half of it, you're just giving them a movie or series at a discount.
Yeah.
And who don't like a discount?
Right.
100%.
So it's things like that. These are, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to very basic human nature, human behavior, and psychology, that when you see the elements of what is needed, you can then put that with anything. You can do it for a podcast. You can do it for a doc film. You can do it for a scripted movie or TV series and see some really great results. So we were basically putting together some, when I had my production company with my business partner, we were putting together some really strong packages, whether it was the concept itself and the access, what was like never before access to a world that everyone would want to see, but no one ever tapped into it in that way. Or we had some really great packaging. Like, we had a dance project with like one of the top choreographers in the world at that time. Things like that was able to, even though we were a young budding production company, it was able to still stand out in the marketplace with everybody else, because big production companies were bringing the studios a project that was packaged at the same level we were. And so the unique factor was, going back to your question about MTV and the producing stage of it, is we ended up at that time selling some of our unscripted shows and our reality shows first.
When you first sell your unscripted show, like what's the environment?
Tell us the process,
like,
too.
And then also, tell us the process of negotiating and closing on the sale, but also in going in and pitching for the sale.
Yes,
What did you do to prepare?
So for any project, you need a deck and a sizzle. You need presentation material, pitch material.
Yeah.
And people experience this in all different types of industries. Like when you're going and doing a presentation to your boss, even if you're in advertising or if you're in sales, you have some sort of presentation material that you're bringing. And so usually we have a deck and a sizzle that we're putting together. And again, we were using very, very talented people. And at this time, there's really great accessible phones and cameras and stuff like that. So we're able to do a lot at a much more affordable cost. And so the level of our sizzle reels were looking just as dope as any music video or YouTube video or studio video that was out there in the marketplace. And then our decks and our packaging of the directors or the celebrities that we were bringing involved in, again, we're at the caliber of any of other established companies.
One thing I want to pause you. How did you get these attachments for these celebrities?
Well, like I said, I was getting into rooms.
No, you already had the relationship building, so the seeds are already planted while going through your industry.
It's easy for you for the phone call or email.
Exactly. So from when you're interning to when you're assisting to when you're coordinating, and everyone sees how much of a hard worker and over deliver you are, they bring you in the rooms, you make them look good, and then when you call them, they're not thinking that you're going to call them, excuse my French, for shitty stuff. Because everything that you've done, you've always delivered in a pristine way. So, I mean, even down to when I was interning and putting the tape stock library together, I organized and labeled it. I mean, I streamlined it for them, like so well that they weren't expecting. They thought I was just going to organize it. I put a log together. I put in alphabetical order. I was like, anytime you need to find something, this is how you find it. And I made the process faster for them.
It's crazy. The consistency in your life protrude all the way until now. It's crazy.
And so, the through line has always been there. I didn't realize it at the time, but the through line had always been there. So all of these people, their memories of me and my work ethic and the quality of my work was always strong. So when I'm reaching out to that agent or that junior agent who's also hungry now because they were a coordinator and now they're an agent, and I was a coordinator, now I'm starting my own production company, we all have this pre-existing relationship where the quality of work was strong. And when I showed up, I was always showing up as my full self. I was always attentive. I always respect everybody for who they were. I didn't downlook other interns because they were interns. I didn't downlook other assistants because you're not an executive, so I'm not going to treat you well. Like, I treated everyone with the utmost respect because they weren't going to always be assistants. Right? So as I was moving up in my career, they also were moving up in their careers. And then the people who I had previously worked with, from the first time I met Little John, he always remembered me.
Wow.
So it's things like that. And so after that, it was like I could call these people up for who they represented or who they knew, and they would connect me. So I was using all of those pre-existing relationships and access to then package the new projects that I had under our own company. And same thing for my producing partner at the time. He had the same level of relationships and work ethic as well. So all of that was what we were bringing to our projects. And then because we had those relationships directly with the studios and the networks as well, I used that in the beginning to bring them really strong material. And again, it stood out. They were like, wait, how did you guys start this company and now you have this celebrity attached or this director, writer attached? And we ended up in our first year selling 3 shows.
Oh, that's
and
what is
I'll get into what I was gonna the process of when you have the material, you're reaching out to these development executives to come and pitch them. At the time, obviously this was pre-pandemic, so you're going into the rooms, you're showing the sizzle reel, the deck, you're pitching them your ideas, and they then are asking questions about what makes it a strong production or a project for their platform. They're asking some of the intricacies about production itself and how we plan on producing this, because we're basically asking them for millions of dollars. And I think that's the other thing that I always understood that a lot of creatives tend to forget. They really are just focusing on the project. And it's like, well, when you're pitching, you're literally saying, I want you to give me $2 million. I want you to give me $10 million, right? Depending on what your project is. So you have to really have all those answers of, can I trust you to take this 2 million or this 10 million and deliver?
Right.
One of the other things that we also did too, again, that I learned from my previous work experience, was partnering with people who had the experience as well. I think sometimes when you're young and you're hungry, you want to lead everything yourself. And we were really about collaboration. So we were also partnering with some very known and established other production companies. And on a few projects, even though we did all the legwork, we let them take the lead because we knew that, oh, this network or this studio has done projects with them before. So they'll trust them with the $10 million. But then this company trusts us, so they'll let us collaborate in a very equal way.
They're leading, you're learning. Now you both get their experience. Now you can lead the other film.
Exactly. So that's also what we did as well. So in our first 3 projects, we partnered with more senior people that had that trusted expertise with those distribution platforms, but we made sure that they were going to keep us involved. And so the negotiations of that was very, very key. And I think that I'm about to say something very unconventional here.
Let's do it.
But I think that, we really embraced people who knew the industry. And so I think a lot, especially when you're young and you're a person of color, you're not going to the old veteran Jewish white guy who's been negotiating hundreds and thousands of deals and knows what it needs to say and be like, right? So we were having people represent us who were like veterans in the game. And I think a lot of young people, they say no to those types of things, or they don't even pursue.
They don't, they reach out.
They don't even pursue those types of representation and partnerships. They want to partner and have someone who's like them.
The commonality between the person.
I was like totally fine that my agent and me were not best friends. I don't want you to be my best friend. I want you to agent. Right? And you know how to agent like the best of them. So agent away and get us the best deal. So that's how we were approaching it. We had, an amazing attorney at the time, and then we ended up getting another amazing attorney at the time who's still my attorney today. But, these were very knowledgeable, plugged in guys who knew more than us. We weren't trying to have our friend who's the up and coming entertainment lawyer represent us.
And that's in the dark.
And that's what a lot of people do. So I'm not saying to don't do that, but I'm just giving people the gems of what worked for us. And so we ended up getting deals that most first-time production companies were not getting.
And what are those deals, like the numbers in a ballpark, if you give them? They're so long ago, so you can buy a shirt.
But I'll just say this. I mean, it's still even today, because we're talking about percentages here. But like when you're partnering with a bigger production company and sometimes these production companies are giving the smaller producer, and I'm saying this in air quotes here, people, but the younger producer, the smaller producer, they're only giving them maybe like 10%, 15%. Max they're getting is 20%.
Of their own project.
Of the own project because think about it. It's when you're producing something and bringing something to life, there's so much more that goes into it.
Correct.
Right? So when someone is taking on the liability of millions of dollars is now liable for their company, not you. So with that liability and with all of that responsibility that they're taking on, they're the ones that's helping really bring it to life. So that is why they feel it's warranted for them to have
ownership.
50+% of the idea that you came up with. Now, the difference is what we did was we were willing to take on a lot more work so that we got a lot more percentage. The more you come to the table with, the more leverage you have to ask for.
Right.
So if I'm going to a bigger production company or studio and saying, hey, I came up with the script. But they still got to get the director, they still got to get the actors, they still got to sell it, produce it, take on the liability of all that money and legal liability of injuries. Like there's so much liability that comes into play when you're the production company leading everything. Right. And then they have to deliver it in post, all of that, storage of footage, like all of those things are so many of the intricacies and logistics that you're not thinking about when you're like, I wrote this script and I want 70%.
Yeah.
It's like, are you taking
this is my idea.
Yeah. And it is. I'm definitely not taking that away from people. But the more you come in with for the series, for the film, right? There's the script and the idea, and then there's the film. There's that final product. There's that IP at the end. And so the more you come in for that process, the more leverage you have. And so what we did was we were willing to invest time and money into bringing attachments in. We were taking the time and the money to put together amazing sizzles that almost looked like the show. So when the show came out, it was a version of the sizzle. Like we were the show graphics and our sizzles were basically the show.
Wow.
So we were giving them
the whole game
elements. So literally, when our MTV and VH shows were coming out, the opening graphics you see are literally replicas of what our sizzle looked like.
Wow.
So that's how much we were bringing to the table. Not just here's my deck. Here's my PowerPoint presentation. We were coming in with a lot more material. Like if we were pitching a reality show, we were like, here's talent for 10 episodes. So all of those things gave us a bit more leverage. So when our agents and our managers were coming in and saying, oh no, they have to have 33%, they need to have 35%. And they're like, these kids that
where's the footprint?
Like they've only had a company for like 9 months and they have no previous executive producer credit. Like what?
Excuse me.
But we gave the agent and the lawyer the ammunition to say, well, these other companies came in with this stuff and you gave them 33% or 38% or 50%. They're coming in with the exact same thing. So it gave them the leverage that they needed to get us deals right out of the gate that we were setting as our footprint. So I mean, our very, very first deal ever as producers, we were getting 25%.
Wow.
So then when we would do future deals, they used that as the blueprint. So when someone gave us a deal for 5% or 10%, they were like, no, they're pre-existing deals at 25. They can't take less than that.
Right. We can't go back.
So that was your baseline after that.
And I remember one day we were partnering. This was like years later. I was partnering. This is when my production company, when my partner ended up, we rolled it into just me having my own production company, which is a Win-Win Productions, which is what people see now. And I was doing a deal. And literally this person goes, how do you get these deals? Like, how do you have this deal? Because we were using my pre-existing deals as the deal for this new project. And I realized that he didn't really mean like, oh, how are you getting these deals? He meant like, how are you? Like,
like yourself.
Yeah, like this female, this female of color, like young, like how are you, Miss Lady, having deals that like veteran, award-winning executive producers have, right? And so I learned again at a very young age, like, oh, if you come in with these certain elements and factors, that gives your representation the leverage in a legal setting to ask and negotiate for certain things.
Right.
And so once I learned that, it was a wrap. And my deals have been really dope deals ever since. And so we were I was, an executive producer before the age of 30.
Wow.
We had sold multiple shows and had multiple shows that I created on the air and doing all of this in my like mid 20s to late 20s. And
You're living the Hollywood dream in your 20s.
Yeah.
yes, but it was wild because I ended up having a little bit of like this weird psychological epiphany that, oh wait, because I had this accomplishment at such a young age.
You don't think it'll come later in life?
No, it was like, well, what do I do?
Where I go from here?
Yeah, because there's no higher credit in the entertainment industry than executive producer.
Right.
So once you hit executive producer, you just executive produce for the rest of your career. And so I had mentors at the time that when they became executive producers, they were in their 30s and 40s. Some executive producers didn't get their first executive producing credit to their 50s.
Yeah.
So that means that they were working that whole entire time to get up to executive producer. So when you're in your 20s and getting executive producer credit at the level that I was getting it, right? Because obviously there's a lot of people executive producing right now, but they're executive producing their own content on YouTube.
Correct, yeah.
It's different when you're having
Network.
it's different when you're executive producing with Viacom, HBO,
100%.
things of that level. And so when I was there, I was like, oh, snaps. Like, I'm not chasing a title anymore. So then my career focus shifted. It was no longer about going after becoming an executive producer. It became, okay, now let's focus on executive producing great projects.
Yes.
Impactful cop.
Yeah, like projects that I believe in, people that I really want to help bring their life or their story to light. So basically since my 20s till now, like I've really just been focusing on the projects and the people.
The story,
the
who
stories,
you want to tell.
the messaging I want to get behind versus chasing a title.
100%.
Because I hit that, I became very ego-less. Like I became this executive producer in the industry that I wasn't like narcissistic.
Right.
I wasn't ego, like I wasn't opportunistic. And it shifted how my career moved forward after that because I wasn't chasing something as a notch on my belt anymore.
Right.
It was more about like, oh, okay, like let's just like get the dopest people to work together on this project and make it something amazing.
You're being more present in your career instead of just goal attaining all the time.
Exactly.
How do you shift from your own production company to now you're working for high profile celebrities?
Yeah, I do want to talk about, because we're running on a long time, like 2024.
You're gonna probably edit this down.
No. But 2024, the landscape, how the industry is shifting.
Hold on 1 second. Before you go there, I want to go to, not 2021, I want to go to like Anthony Anderson and you go
And
to
Macro.
And
Yeah.
Macro.
Okay. The beginning stage of that,
The beginning stages of you going to like high profile pods.
Yep. I hear you on that. So with my production company and previously with my producing partner in that production company, 4 Henrys to a Win-Win Productions, we really did epitomize the multi-hyphenate, multifaceted, multi-platform approach. We looked at projects and was like, okay, is this best as a scripted project? Is this best as an unscripted project? Is this better as TV or film? Hey, like this may even be better as a podcast, right? So I was one of those producers that was embracing multi-platform and multimedia content. And I didn't realize it at the time, but again, the New Line days of developing all different types of content and then me continuing that as a producer, I ended up having this specialty in the industry that then became why Anthony Anderson really wanted to work with me or why Macro wanted to work with me. And the specialty is that I was a producer that knew how to produce different types of content because a lot of people hyper focus on one genre.
Yes.
They hyper focus on comedy.
Right.
They hyper focus on game shows.
Right.
They hyper focus only on podcasts.
Yeah.
So the fact that there are brands, celebrities, companies who they want to be multi-platform, they want to be multi-hyphenate. And so Anthony Anderson was looking for someone that, hey, he's a creative genius. He's a talented actor and entertainer, but he is a creative genius. And so when someone like that, who's been in the industry for so long and knows so many people, he comes across so many opportunities of great projects and IP. And so not everything is meant to be Blackish sitcom and grownish sitcom, right? He comes across things that could be amazing animated series. And he comes across things that could be a phenomenal podcast, right? So he wanted someone, and he wanted to work with people that, hey, whatever he came across, they knew how to tackle it.
Right.
And I was recommended. They were someone at the agencies was like, oh, I know someone who, like, you give them an animated series, you give them a podcast, you give them a film, you give them a TV series. They literally have a history of developing and selling and producing all of those.
Wow.
And so he was basically like, is it actually possible to get you to leave your own production company and come work with me? And it just happened to be at a time where I was a bit burnt out running my own company.
Right.
I had executive produced After the Throne for Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And
Insane.
I had done a lot of other amazing things in consulting for other companies. I was consulting for the NFL Podcast Network. So I was helping do all of these things, but I had people working for me and underneath me, and I had a team. But
Are you rich at this point?
No.
How much money do you have?
What are you doing with these finances at the
What is
time?
going on? It sounds like you got just a bankroll.
But
somebody
I will say this, but with the production company, there's a lot of costs, right? Like there's revenue coming in, but there's expenses going out. Like there's people, I'm paying for editors. I'm paying for sizzles. Yeah, I'm paying for.
Do you have a staff?
I had rosters of people that were working for me.
Okay.
Some people correlate success with money, right? They're like, oh, you're seeing all these wins, and they correlate, oh, this is tons of money. But it kind of doesn't work like that.
Well, and money's coming in, but money's also going out.
Yes.
And then there's also, you know, we work in California.
Yeah.
California takes a lot of taxes, and then the feds take a lot of taxes. Like, you know, so I'm not saying that I'm not rich, and I'm not saying that I'm poor. But I'm just saying is that like I do well for myself.
Yes.
And over the years, I've done well for myself. I'm married. My husband does well as well. And I've been very blessed to, during this whole entire time, have his support as well. And so
You can save your money.
so financially, we're good. But there is a lot of money that goes into launching a company, putting assets together for a company, websites, and you know, even having a Dropbox of storing all of your materials for your company costs. Like there's costs everywhere. But yes, like I do very well for myself, but I'm also spending the money as well and putting the money back into society, back into the marketplace, back into other people's pockets. And that's cyclical. Like money keeps coming to me, but I also give money as well. Right? So there is that energy of money and dynamic that's happening with me and my businesses and my life. But when it comes to you know, then going from having my own company to then working with someone like Anthony Anderson and even Macro, I was just at a stage where I was burnt out being the helm of doing everything and having all the final decisions lie with me. And I wanted to be more in a collaborative environment. And so Anthony was just like, oh, can I really get you to, you know, come and move over into my empire? And I was like, yes, for sure. And again, he is a creative genius. The projects that he wanted to do were very in alignment with the type of projects I would want to get behind and bring all of my resources from all of my different experiences into that. And then also building his empire that he already had into something even, you know, greater. So literally, when a quick little tidbit, like when he hired me, he had like 6 unscripted ideas that we were like hyper focusing on, and then an animated series was the first thing we sold.
Wow!
Like within my first 6 to 9 months there, we sold an animated series, and then he was like, "Oh, like all right, well, let's do more animated. So then more animated came on the slate. But that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about of like certain projects come in, and it's not that the project is not good. Maybe it's not in the right packaging of what the market at that time will really resonate with, right? And I see that all the time. Even, you know, as I segue over into macro, like it's the whole reason why I got referred to macro. I got recommended to Anthony, I got recommended to macro, and it was because macro was building a division. They didn't know a pandemic was going to happen, but right before the pandemic, they were looking to expand and start a division that was about alternative programming. You know, they are known for their Oscar-winning feature films and their great scripted series, but they also wanted to expand the company into other genres and to other platforms. So they needed people that speak that language. And again, I didn't realize my whole entire career that I was formulating this expertise that wasn't the norm. I'm like, well, if you know how to produce a scripted TV series, why can't you produce a scripted film? Like, I never saw any of those things as a hurdle. And so and then thankfully I was blessed, you know, God blessed me to have success in each of these arenas as well. So I think that's the other thing too, is there's a lot of people who say they can do it, but they don't have actual results. They don't have actual results of developing, selling it, producing it, and actually having like ratings. And like with my production company, one of my first shows went viral. So it's like when that happens, then people tend to respond to your quality of your work differently. So with macro, same difference, right?
Now, how do you sever relationships? So you're leaving Anthony Anderson, going to macro without burning a bridge. How do you do that?
Well, very carefully. Very, very carefully. So yeah, I went to Anthony. Him and his amazing.
How long were you there?
I was there for like 2.5, almost 3 years. And Anthony and his amazing manager, Brian Dobbins, you know, they did not want me to leave. Because again, I wasn't looking for a job at the time.
Was it good money?
Yeah, I mean, it's always I only respond to good money. Just say I don't even have conversations with people about things that are not good money.
I'm not doing this for free. I'm passionate.
I only have conversations unless it's
good money.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I gave you the example of my deals. As an independent producer, it's like if you're not going to talk to me about something that's worth what all of my other conversations are at, then I'm not going to have the conversation. So I think that's the difference. It's like I'm not even going to entertain something unless I really, really believe in it and I'm looking at it as like a passion project. But these are not passion projects. Anthony Anderson is not a passion project. Macro is not a passion project. These are businesses and amazing established brands and talent. And so working with macro, I would say that, again, same difference of they wanting it to expand what they're known for and the elevated quality of work that they do, but do it in non-scripted, doc films, podcasts. And I happen to be one of the very rare people in our industry, let alone of color. You know, like, but there's just not a lot of people in our industry that have the track record
100%.
of being able to do that. So I was highly recommended to them. And so when I was talking to Anthony and Brian about it, they totally got it. I was just like, you know.
Did they know macro?
They all know. They all know each other. So, you know, I gracefully bowed out of working with Anthony and Brian Dobbins, and
you asked for more money.
And I moved over to macro. But I would say at that time, one of the major things that was happening was I was doing this all during the pandemic. And so I was also looking for.
Were you married too? At that
time? So I've been married this whole time, and I was just looking for something that was a more expanded brand, because when you're working for a celebrity, they have a very specific and unique brand. So and that was my first time. I was consulting for celebrities in the past, but this was my first time just being full-time for a celebrity. So when I experienced having to say no to things that I knew were really, really good, that I could have sold, but I had to say no because it didn't fit Anthony's brand. And I was like, man. And so that was the thing that I liked about macro. I was like, oh, there's a possibility of being able to do a lot more because they were a expanded brand versus being a much more specific brand. And so both brands are very high quality, high driven, successful brands, but in a different way. And so, you know, they totally understood. And also I would say this, like they, at the time, Anthony was also getting more into scripted and wanted to hyper focus even more into scripted series. And I preferred being more in the alternative programming sector. I was not looking to hyper focus on one genre. And they were aware of that from the beginning. So I was like, you know, it just felt like macro was more fitting for me. And I, you know, jokingly was like, look, there's someone who is dying to only do unscripted, scripted series for Anthony Anderson. Like this is someone's dream job. I'm not going to steal someone's dream job. Right. And just do it just because I can, but I'm not in love with it, right? So I moved over into macro, and again doing more of the same, but for macro's brand. And
what do your day-to-day look like? You know, when you get in the office, you're looking at tons of emails. How do you approach your day?
Well, my day really never ends. My work
Your day is still
Okay. The question about that: how do you have balance? Because a work addict like us, we're very work addicts.
I'm always working, and especially the mindset of a producer and someone like myself who's also an unhealthy overachiever is that. I can be somewhere that's not work related, see something and be like, oh my God, that's a great TV show idea. So it's like I just accepted that it's part of me now. Life. It's been ingrained in part of my personality and who I am. But I would say that from a balance standpoint, it's really understanding being so efficient with your multitasking that you're getting the things that are priority done, so that even if you have other things on your list to do, those are the things that like can potentially wait. And it's not too crucial or critical that you're not getting them done.
Have enough cushion where you can relax.
Exactly. So then you can actually have time to have an amazing meal with your husband, or have time to go to a party with your girlfriends, or do Hallmark night with your girls, or whatever like that. Like there's all these other fun things that I am doing and hanging out with my friends and my family, but it's because I'm very efficient and effective with the things that are priority that need to get done right away. And then the things that are important but not a priority, I can allocate those at the appropriate times. And then that gives me time for hobbies like AI, my AI hobbies.
Speaking of AI,
or you know, all the other, or hang out with friends or family. Like it gives me time for all of those other things, because I'm at least making sure the priority things are getting it done.
100%.
Oh, before we get to AI, I want a quick story about how you met your husband.
Oh my gosh, really?
Quick story about relationships. Because we also talk about like the balance between work life and social life.
Because Hollywood can be very consuming.
And we get the glitz and glam of the parties. So you're meeting tons of people. And sometimes your partner might not understand, like, you have to schmooze, you know, you have to be a little bit more outgoing than normal. So
it's very political to network.
Definitely. So I met my husband walking down the street on 4th of July. Yes. Met my husband walking down the street, and I didn't know he was going to be my husband. We never talked about getting married when he proposed.
Wow. What?
Yes. It was a very...
How long until he proposed?
He proposed like a year after us dating.
After you were dating?
A year and a half-ish. And we never talked about getting married. But that's where my faith comes in. That's where my trust comes in, and God and the path. And so I was just like, okay, all signs have been good so far.
Right.
So I'm not going to anticipate catastrophic stories and project all of these negative what ifs.
Right.
Like if everything's been good so far, and when things aren't all peachy keen, we are adults about it and we get through it and we, move forward together.
Talk it out.
Then let's do this. And so I would say that, one of the really great things about our dynamic is we appreciate and respect each other for who we are. So like he is definitely not an entertainment guy. He's a finance guy. He does very well for himself, and he really does not care about celebrities.
Right.
He that doesn't move him. because of in his world, he's surrounded by a lot of money, high level people
Achievers.
all the time. And so, you know, being around a really wealthy, famous celebrity or director,
Right.
it's like, okay, like that's just another person.
Right.
And I'm technically that way as well, which is why I've done well in the industry. Like I have never really
Fawned over
someone.
someone.
Yeah, like I look at everyone as like a great collaborator possibility, a great business opportunity, a great project opportunity. Like I treat everyone with respect and equally. And so I think that we both have that dynamic about each other where he knows like, oh, okay, if I'm going to a work meeting or a business event, he knows that like, oh, okay, it's really about business.
Yeah.
And that I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna make something happen, I'm a maneuver, I'm a network, I gotta do this to either move a project forward, and then I come home.
Yeah.
And so I think that we just found a good balance of respecting each other, having things that we enjoy outside of Hollywood.
Right.
Because then everything is not always about Hollywood, right? And so we do a lot of things that are not industry related. We have a lot of friends that are very successful that aren't in the entertainment industry. And
Is that important for a healthy relationship? What do you think?
I mean, for us, it is. For some people, their goal is to become a Hollywood power couple.
They gotta be Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Yeah. And so for them, like, kudos to you.
Right.
Like, you guys like master everyone and everything in Hollywood if that's their goal together. That is not our goal together. We just want to have a very healthy and successful blessed luxury lifestyle and relationship that fosters each other. So we really care about that. And so we respect each other for who each other are. Again, he's more reserved. I'm more outgoing. I like to socialize. I love to dance. That's not his cup of tea, but he'll let me do it. You know, like he's just like, okay, whatever. Like that's who I am. And so we respect each other for that, but then also find time to cook together, to have moments together. I choose to say no to certain really amazing, important events because I'm like, oh, I have 3 other nights where I have work dinners.
Right.
So these 2 nights, I'm not going to go to those other amazing, awesome events.
Yeah.
And I'm going to spend time with my husband.
That's beautiful.
And you know, same with him. He also has a lot of other things going on outside of work and his amazing hobbies and stuff like that. And so it's about consciously making the choice to say no to other things and choose each other. And you know, that's what I do. And sometimes it requires, okay, he really wants to do this or we really want to do this. I'm going to take the time to go do that with him. And then when he goes to bed, I'm going to stay up till 1 a.m. to get this deck or sizzle notes out, right? Like this editor's waiting for it, and the editor needs those notes by morning. So that means I need to stay up till from
the sacrifice.
Yeah, like when we get back at 11:30 p.m., I'm gonna stay up till 1 a.m. and get it done.
Wow.
So it's those types of dynamics, and I don't even have kids, and I can't even imagine people with kids and dealing with that dynamic as well. I mean, mothers who work in entertainment, own businesses, and have kids and a husband, they're super women. Like literally, it's a different level and caliber of womanhood to do what they're doing.
But you have a lot of mental discipline, just knowing your life.
Yes.
And so, also, I want to tap on this. I know.
Well, you have an AI podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to tap on it a little bit about your AI.
Yes.
And the industry, how it's shifting.
Because if you're going to ask me anything about the future, you definitely want to ask me about artificial intelligence.
Yes, we have to talk about it because I know you do it in a podcast. You do it every day. How is our entertainment shifting into AI and integrating with AI in Hollywood?
Yeah, so my podcast, The AI Chicks, that I co-host with my best friend Lana Hout, who is one of the top business brokers in the world, in the U.S. So we really felt that on our own, we were diving into AI and exploring AI for years. I've always been into tech. And so me exploring and elevating my passion for tech into AI was just like inevitable. And hyper focusing and diving into the impact, the tools, the research, everything happening with AI, not just in entertainment, but for our society as a whole. She was sort of also doing it on her own end as well on the more business scale as a business broker. I'm a little bit more techie and technical with it. So I was just into it from a computer programming and capability standpoint. Yeah, exactly. And so we decided to start embedding our love for AI within our friendship.
Wow.
And then every time we got together and we're keying and giving the tea, AI was always in that conversation as well. And after years of doing that with our friendship, I was like, every time we get together, we're doing a podcast. So let's just actually do a podcast.
Right.
And I do this for a living, so I know that the caliber of what we're already saying is needed in the marketplace. And the conversations around AI are usually twofold. One, it's usually the media doing fear baiting and fear mongering and just literally only giving the warning signs of all the negative things about AI. And the interesting thing about that is most people question anything the media says when it comes to politics, when it comes to news.
Especially after the pandemic.
When it comes to anything else.
But AI, they accept it.
Yeah, when it comes to anything else, they question the media.
Right.
But when it comes to AI, they just absorb everything that the media is saying. And and it's very intriguing to me that that's happening because AI is going to be in every part of our lifestyle. It's not just a career thing. It's going to be how we communicate with people. Just how the internet came and changed the game. AI is going to change the game. It's the next era of like the internet. So the fact that people are allowing and accepting the media to keep them from not learning about AI. I'm not even saying you have to like it. I don't like everything about AI. And I'm the AI chicks, right? Like, and me and Lana talk about that all the time on our podcast. Like, we are the AI chicks because we're informing people. We have studied it. We are certified in artificial intelligence. We understand the ins and outs of it. We've used over 100 plus AI tools. Because of our access and our research and our knowledge, we get to beta test AI tools before they come out.
Did you beta test Sora?
I did not get to beta test that one, but there are some other ones that I know about that we've experienced that hasn't been fully accessible to the public, that will be accessible to the public in 2, 5 years, 10 years from now.
Wow.
So when we have this knowledge, we were realizing that okay, we've already gone down this rabbit hole for years, and we have the relationships with these people in this industry. Let's close the gap because the mass media is scaring off people from even wanting to hear about it,
100%.
talk about it, or learn about it.
100%.
And then you have the other side of, sorry, you guys.
Our phones do it.
Okay. And then you have the other side that is coming from the tech and the business world, and they're speaking on it at a very high level. So they're speaking to people who already know about AI. They're speaking this, like, when you are a very popular podcaster like Lex and you talk to Sam Altman or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk about AI, that's not speaking to the mechanic. That's not speaking to your auntie. That's not speaking to your grandmother who are going to get impacted by AI.
Right.
So we were going to these AI events and summits and, consuming all of these AI AI newsletters and podcasts and information and seeing the gap that was happening. And I said, the way we talk about it like if we're your best friend and we're giving you the tea girl on like what's going on. And so and that's how we naturally are with our friendship. And so I was like, there's a gap happening here. Let's fill the gap. And so we decided to, birth and release the AI Chicks that is, available on all platforms. And it's also more than just a podcast. We're starting to consult. It's becoming like this AI consulting agency and media brand as well. And so the unique thing that, again, we really did this out of the calling to help others. There's a through line here of like every time I'm doing content, it's because I feel like it can help or impact people in a positive way, or bring light or shed light on culture, society, community, etc. And so I really wanted to bridge the gap. We decided to come up with this podcast. I don't half-ass anything, so the quality of it is
you built a whole set.
Yeah, I built a
Consistent. That's your life.
built a whole set in 4 weeks,
right?
And used AI at every stage of the game. We collaborated with AI to create our podcast logos.
Wow.
We created our questions with AI. So there's some AI generated questions as well as human generated. We also, all of the web stuff that you're seeing, images on our website, we use AI to help build our website. And then we're testing out AI during our productions as well. We are using AI during our post-production and editing. So with this process, we learned that we were the first audio video podcast to be AI powered, co-hosted by women.
Wow.
So then all of these other things are coming up now upon us, pioneering something in the AI and podcast space. Now all of these other opportunities are coming towards us for consulting, advising, speaking engagements, brand and strategic partnerships. So all of that is now happening, but that wasn't the goal coming into it. The goal was to really bridge the communication gap around what's happening in AI, and now it's taking on a life of its own, which I'm very, very excited about.
Your life purpose is just to help people, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I learned, it's so funny that you say that, because I learned that my name Aisha means to bring to life.
Wow.
I learned that after, way in my 20s, I learned that, but I was like, I always feel called to help and bring things to life through content, through media, and just helping others. And then when I learned that my name means to help bring to life, or to bring to life, I was like, oh, that's very fitting.
You're living your purpose.
An overarching plan for us. I mean, we are literally written from the inception of Earth until we actually leave Earth, until we go to the other dimension. I would say, what are some of your top favorite AI tools that you use? My personal favorite is, I use ChatGPT, of course, and I also use Bard. I use Midjourney, and I use DALL-E.
Well, Bard is now called Gemini.
Gemini. And also, I use DALL-E for generating text and images.
Yeah.
And then Adobe Photoshop Beta that has their own little
Firefly.
AI.
Yep.
So what are some of your favorites?
I mean, all of those. I have a lot of favorites that are not even related to entertainment as well. But yes, I think that for the public to really start embracing ChatGPT, that's sort of like the basis, or Gemini, or Bing, Copilot. I love Copilot because from the very beginning, it gives you sources. It gives you footnotes.
What's Copilot?
So Copilot is Bing's version of like a ChatGPT or Gemini. It's just called Copilot on Bing. Yeah. And so it's like a search engine that you go to on Bing. You go to Copilot and you ask it questions and you prompt it just how you would Gemini or ChatGPT. The difference is that it gives you the source links, and it gives you the articles and the footnotes of where it's pulling the information from. So when you get an output from like ChatGPT, it's just giving you the output.
Right.
But Copilot will give you the output with the source material. So if you want to read about it even more, you click the link, and then it will take you to that article or that website.
So it's fact checking, basically.
It's closer fact checking. You still got to fact check their fact check.
Of course,
yeah. But but that's why I tend to, between all of them, I use all three.
Right.
But I do have an affinity for Copilot Bing's a little bit more, just because it does give you the source links and source material as well.
That's beautiful.
Also, I think that Adobe is doing with all of their of their platforms and software, from Photoshop to Premiere editing. They're doing a phenomenal job of embedding AI into all of their tools. That is streamlining what the editors can do at a much greater speed, and how they can fix errors in audio and video so that you don't have to re-record anything, or so that you do not have to go back and reshoot something, which could cost money and time. So there's a lot of other things that Adobe is embedding into their software and their platforms that is phenomenal. So that's also one of my favorites. I love when things that people are already familiar with start embedding AI into it, because I think that is more of like an easier gateway into people embracing it and understanding how to utilize it versus having to jump onto a whole new platform that is fully new and fully AI driven. I think that a lot of people, it's going to be harder for them to do that crossover. So to start embedding it into platforms that they're already familiar with, and then going to ones that are more AI driven. I think those I just love that aspect of it. Some of my other favorite things that I've got to test out. Devant has an AI photo booth that we talk about on the AI
Love
Chicks.
Devant.
Yeah, Devant's AI photo booth is awesome. I feel like every event planner or people
Better
planning,
than Canva?
Yes, like people planning their weddings. Everyone, like, you literally have a photo booth that you go to at a party, but then it generates your it generates AI avatars of you with your picture in all different ways. So you're like you take a picture, and then when you get your pictures, like a regular photo booth, you also get yourself as Muppets and as like robots and
That's
as aliens.
cool.
And so it just makes the experience a lot more fun. And again, this is a tried and true traditional thing that we've all been doing since a kid, going to photo booths.
Yeah.
And now you have this AI photo booth experience. So
You
things
could also
like
turn that into a business too. So save a young entrepreneur.
yeah, like that's what they're doing. So like, I mean, Devant is has the actual systems that they're creating to have an AI photo booth. But yes, like independent people can now can buy the Devant system and then go out and be an AI photo booth, service
There's a business.
for live events. One other thing that I think, especially filmmakers and entertainment, we've been talking a lot about entertainment, so I'll highlight this, like Flawless AI. Have you heard about that?
No.
Okay, so Flawless AI is a lip sync, dubbing sync AI tool. We talk about this on our podcast as well, but basically what it does is it allows you to change the lip movement of your actors to match the language of the dubbing.
Wow.
So this podcast video,
Right.
we could then get it dubbed in Spanish, and then Flawless AI will change all of our lips to match it speaking in Spanish. So if someone in, Colombia watched it, it would look like we are all speaking Spanish.
That's beautiful.
So every filmmaker, think about all the independent filmmakers now
Yeah.
that can have their films in Vietnamese,
Yeah.
in French, in Spanish.
Yeah.
And now you just amplified the monetization and the discoverability of your independent film. You're not limited to only US distributors. If you don't have any traction with a US distributor, your film may just need to be in Romanian.
Yeah.
And the Romanians may love it. You may have the #1 film in Romania
Right.
that you recorded in English and used flawless with dubbing and lip sync matching through AI. And now it's Romania's #1 film, right? So there's things like that is, they're the possibilities. But obviously for logistics as well, studios love it because they don't have to pay for
a dubbing
there's
facility.
a visual effects facility.
Yeah, and it gets done faster.
Yeah.
You're getting it done much faster than you would as having to do it the traditional way. So I will just highlight this very catch coin phrase that the AI chicks use. We have this thing called the 4 AI-ations, right? And so the 4 AI-ations for professionals are creation, optimization, automation, and monetization. So all of them in an Asian. So we call it the AI Asians. And basically, when you're working on a project or when you have a business, you can use AI in one of those 4 ways. Now, there's other Asians too that we know about that, but just to streamline it, we're like, you can use AI to help create and streamline that, because not everyone is good at creating a sizzle reel or a deck, or they don't have the money to go do sizzle reels and decks the way me and my producing partners or the way I used to do it, right? So they can use AI to help fast forward their presentation material and do it in a very elevated way. Even if they just had they're a writer that has the idea, use AI to put together the visual deck for it. They might be a great writer, but that doesn't mean they're great visually.
Yeah.
So they can use AI for the visuals, they can use AI for the sizzle reels, and it turns out at an amazing caliber to then go out and pitch if you don't have the money to pay someone from Fiverr, or if you don't have the money for a graphics designer, things like that, right? So there's AI for creation, there's AI for optimization, so it can help optimize and streamline, and you can be more efficient and effective of how fast you do something, like flawless AI. There is automation. So there's a lot of things that AI can automate, where you can get it done faster, or it will multitask for you seamlessly versus you having to do it all the time. And then there's monetization, right? So some people, their business is tight, everything is smooth.
Yeah.
They don't need AI. Whatever they got going on, it's dope. It's solid. But you could also use AI to elevate and expand your monetization, right? So, or you can use AI for 2 of the 4 or all 4. There's a lot of different ways to bring in AI, and I think that is what people don't fully understand, is all of the different capabilities of artificial intelligence. There's not just one type of artificial intelligence. Generative AI is one type of artificial intelligence that's getting all of the attention right now. But there's computer vision, there's LLMs, there's NLPs, there's all these different types of AI tools and capabilities that they're embedding into the legal system, real estate, that they're embedding into the healthcare system. So like the way that you go and look for properties is never going to be the same way that people looked for properties and toured houses 3-5 years ago.
Right.
Wow.
The way that when you start going to the clinic and healthcare or pharmacies and dealing with your pediatrician or your veterinarian for your dog, like everything's going to be different with the technology that they're using. When you're dealing with a lawyer, they're using AI and all the capabilities that they're going to be using there. Even in accounting, like if you are looking to do your own accounting, for your business or just your personal life, you can use AI to streamline and handle all your expenses, your spending, your budgeting. Like, people not paying their bills should never happen moving forward. If you know which AI tools to use and you follow how to handle your finances, right? So there's all of these things that people don't fully understand of how AI can help benefit or enhance parts of their lives. Obviously, I will give the major disclaimer that we need regulations. There needs to be a lot of regulations and parameters put around AI. And like I said, like, you don't need AI in every single thing all the time. If you are a solid filmmaker and creator, if you're a studio that really loves the team that you guys have, if you don't need AI there, then don't put AI there.
Right.
But you may need AI in your business affairs department.
Yeah.
You may need AI, on the post side.
People who lack finances can use AI.
Exactly. Like, or if you're going over budget and you need to CGI something and that's going to take an extra $100K to do, use AI for that. 100%. Use Sora for that, right? So now you already spent $2 million. And you're going to go over budget with an extra $100K for CGI. Right. You can have the same exact quality using Sora, and it will do it faster for less money. So I feel like that's where humans can control where we're embedding AI and when we're using it and when we're not using it. And so that's really what we talk about on our podcast. Each episode covers a different life sector, a different life topic in society, and how AI is coming into that. I mean, what AI is doing with the education system right now, there's actually a school that has no teachers.
What?
Yes, and AI is teaching the students.
These kids are going to be so far advanced.
That's my point. That's the point. Is like, when you're an adult and you're like, oh, don't talk to me about AI, and I'm like, these 10-year-olds in 10 years are going to be 20.
Yeah.
And so these 10-year-olds that know everything about AI are going to be operating and doing things when they're 20, and you're going to be
so far left behind.
And so think about this. I'll go to something. I would say one last thing. You can see I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah.
Again, not because I think AI is perfect.
Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of flaws with AI. People can listen to our podcast. We get into that all the time. But to ignore it, you're just going to age yourself out of not just your job, but like
Life.
society and life.
A new civilization will rise, and you'll be left behind.
So I'll give you a perfect example. So just look at our grandparents, right? Like there was a time where email did not exist.
Right.
And they had to write letters. And they had to send mail. And that took days. Now you can send someone an email. So imagine if we were talking to someone, they're like, oh, let me send them that in the mail. Let me print out this document and mail it to them.
My parents do that today.
Yeah, let me print out this document and mail it to them. Let me write this letter and mail it to them. And you're like, why would you do that? You could just send it over email.
Right.
And they could get it in like a second or a day or whatever.
Exactly.
And now imagine the next generation being like, why would you send an email?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right? Because we're thinking emails fast.
Right.
Yeah.
AI assistants are faster than us sending an email.
Right. Ooh.
So to use an AI assistant or AI agent to send your emails or your messages will be faster, and they can send more at once because it's a computer, right? So think about the fact that for you to craft your email takes time.
Takes time.
For you to craft, and you have to do
research too.
and you have to send one email at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
It can already come with a solution through the email.
AI can draft 10 emails for you at once.
Right.
Cater to each individual person.
And then, yes, you still have to read it, fact check it, add your finessing, because it's still your message to that person. But you just had 10 emails drafted at once.
Yeah.
And AI can look at the email thread and chain. It looks at your files. If you told that AI agent, okay, send this response to this person, attach this file, make sure that you answered the questions that they asked me in 2 emails earlier. Like, it does all of that in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
And it can do it on multiple emails, right? So now you're gonna have people being more productive. The optimization and the automation, right? They're gonna be faster and more productive in getting their emails and messages out, while you're like, I'm gonna send my 1 email at a time.
Right.
And then the generation before us is like, and let me write a letter and send it in the mail,
Right.
So it's that's the gap that's happening right now, even with a phone. Like, you have people who were staying away from not using cell phones, or they didn't want to put their information on the internet.
Yes.
They didn't want to be on social media.
Yeah.
Now, if your business does not have a website, people think something's weird.
They think it's a scam.
Yeah.
If you don't have a you don't have an Instagram or social media.
You don't have a
following
digital footprint.
If you don't have any digital footprint, people think something's off.
Yes.
So that's why I was felt called, because it's like, I have all of this information, relationships. I'm seeing these products firsthand in person at AI events. The CEOs of companies are telling me about the things that they're building that will be coming out years from now. And I'm like, and then I'm walking around hearing people like, oh no, I'm not
100%.
gonna think about that AI stuff. That's too scary.
Yep.
It's like, are you kidding me right now?
So when you build your AI production company, I will work for you and let me know.
No, you could be using AI, and you
we
guys do. Yeah, I'm sure
we
you
use
guys.
AI all the
you guys
time.
are using it all the time, but it's gonna come in even more.
Yeah.
So that's why we built the AI Chicks brand, is to inform people about all aspects of their lives and how it's going to be impacting their lives, and then also touching on the pros and the cons, and that there's a lot of need for room for improvement on a lot of these things. But that's really where the passion for this came. And so, as I move forward, this funny thing that you talked about the AI production company, but I think moving forward in my career, that's really where I feel called of bridging the gap between bridging the gap between technology and AI. I know a lot of people that are just fully embracing AI. Like, there are some filmmakers who they're just doing fully AI movies and AI content. They're starting AI production companies and AI studios. I think that there is a beauty of a hybrid, and so that's the world and space that I'm playing in, and that I really see where I can be beneficial to others, moving forward.
Beautiful. Well, Aisha, we don't want to take too much of your time. Your phone's blowing up, and there's a lot of things going on.
I mean, goodness gracious, your wealth of knowledge is
and
billionaire status.
in the next 5 years, you're beat out Warner Brothers or Universal. I mean, you're gonna be phenomenal, and just the amount of knowledge that you have.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I feel like there's room for everybody. My last name is Wynn. My company is called the Win-Win Productions. Like, I really believe in that theory. And so it's like, that's why I do what I do, is because I want to give this information to the companies like Warner, the Macros of the world, you guys of the world, and other independent creatives and established companies that maybe had been doing the same thing that they're used to doing it for 20 years. And I'm like, don't get aged out.
Yeah,
100%.
And so, so I definitely want to bring my knowledge and my experience and combine it all to help those people grow in what they're doing, help the empires that are already empires stay empires, and then help build more empires.
Beautiful.
Wow. We want to ask the last question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
what's
can
up?
ask the last question.
So our very last question is, throughout our journey of life, we go through ups and downs, and a lot of people get into this business and they reach a very pinnacle of their success, but they haven't found their fulfillment. We want to know, have you found what you're looking for in life, and throughout your journey, on what is it that you're looking for in life?
Wow, that's deep.
Think about it. Take a second.
That's a deep one. Well, I mean, I will say that, because this is something that I just truly believe in, is that I think life is a journey. And we are always evolving. Like, technology has always evolved. Humans have always evolved. And I feel as though fulfillment is evolution as well. Because you can hit a level of fulfillment, but we're always in beings that are prone to desire more new things. And then society and the world changes and technology changes that allows us to desire something new that we didn't even know we were capable of desiring before. And so I do feel as though there were times where I felt fulfilled, but then that was fleeting.
Right.
Like, I felt fulfilled, and then I was like, okay, then like, what? I'm still alive. So like, what's
next?
something else that can fulfill me? And then what is something else after that can fulfill me? I do feel though that, one of the things that I feel called to do that I don't feel like I've done yet is, impact the world in a very prominent way. Like, I feel like there's like something that either a business or people, like I feel like there's more things for me to be a part of to help impact others. And there's other projects that I'm working on that I feel are going to be that. Like, there's other things outside of the AI Chicks that I'm working on, and other business endeavors with some phenomenal other people that will be announced and coming out soon. And then there's other things that I'm cooking up with the AI Chicks and artificial intelligence products and opportunities that are coming to us that I feel can really impact and help people in the future. So I definitely feel like, even though I've had a lot of great impact so far, that I can have even more of a bigger impact to help others in society. So I don't feel like that little itch and calling in my psyche and my spirit that box has been checked yet. But I've always hit many, many blessings and stages of my life where like God has shown up and shown out. And then I'm like, wow, for someone else, like, this is their life's dream.
Yes.
And like, I have already experienced it.
At 20.
And even just other things outside of the industry. It's like, I'll go on like the most epic trip with my friends and have this most catered 5-star luxury trip that like people dream of that they want to do when they retire.
Right.
And it's like, I did that a month ago.
Right.
So it's like, okay, like, now that we just had that dream trip, you don't stop dreaming.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, what's our new, I literally asked my husband, I was like, what's the next dream trip? Because we had a dream trip. We fulfilled a dream trip. And so it was like, what's the next dream trip, right? So I know that this can sound wild to other people, especially when they're still like grasping for their first fulfillment. And I'm talking about the 7th fulfillment, the 100th fulfillment, right? But it is possible. And a lot of that just comes with faith and believing. Like I really have experienced God just pouring into my life and bringing opportunities, people, revenue and blessings and experience my way that I would have never dreamed of. And some of them were bigger than what I dreamed about. And I've allowed myself to be open to that. And I think that a lot of people, they have their fulfillment and their dreams having to be a specific way. And the way to get there is also specific. And it's like the way for you to live that, get that fulfillment may not be the route that you think it is.
Wow.
And then when you hit that fulfillment, you're going to have another fulfillment to fulfill, right? You're going to have imagine whatever your most epic dream that you could dream of. Imagine if you experienced it next month.
That's crazy.
Imagine if you got to live it next month.
Wow.
Then what would happen? You would dream something else. And that's why you see very successful people keep going, right? There's a part of people that feels like it's greed. They're like, you're already a billionaire. Why do you keep...
Why do you want to go to Mars?
Yeah, like why do you, like Elon Musk, go sit down. Like you already built Tesla. Why are you trying to go, Oprah, you already did this. Why are you also trying to do this? Like Tyler Perry, you've already hit here.
Got a mega studio.
Yeah, like why you got to build another studio? Like, you're already successful. I used to be that person. I used to look at Steven Spielberg when I was younger, and I'm like, you're already Steven Spielberg. Like, go sit down. Let someone else be Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, like he's still alive. He still has drive. He still has determination. And despite all the successes that a George Lucas and a Steven Spielberg have had, a Martin Scorsese have had, they're still in their 70s, still dreaming, still creating, and so that's what I realized is like that there's never that like one point where you just stop. And if you hit a point while you're alive where you hit a dream and a fulfillment and then you just stop dreaming and stop fulfilling, get yourself checked out.
Go to therapy.
Yeah, go to therapy. Like you should, as long as you're alive,
You should always have a dream.
you can always have experiences that you want to experience. If you don't, some people don't like to label them as dreams.
Okay.
But yes, like there's always going to be that drive, that desire to want to experience something else, want to try something new, want to travel somewhere else. And that drive is you just being alive.
Oh, Aisha, that was so beautiful, so well put. It's probably the best answer we got on the podcast.
Yeah, it's really well.
Because I think you hit every detail as far as what things that we as humans thrive to look for. And when you get there, you're always going to find something else to find.
There's always another stage of life.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is okay. And I think that's the other thing too is, some people, they feel weird or some people, they go through a crisis when they hit success.
Yeah.
Some people, they have imposter syndrome when they hit success. And it's like, well, because that's not the final success. Like there can be other types of success. Some people are successful in one, or what they would deem as successful in one stage of their life, but they're in a hot mess in the other stage of their lives. So it's like, okay, well, keep that side a success, keep that side a dream, and then work on the other parts of your life being a dream.
Yeah.
Like there's always an experience, a life, a desire, a goal to be had.
I wonder how God feels. But we don't want to take too much of your time. Aisha, where can we find you on Instagram, social media? How can people stay connected with you?
Okay. Well, I'm very boring with my socials and online. I keep it my full name, Aisha Corpas Wynn. And then you can also find me at the AI Chicks on all the social medias as well. And same thing for, LinkedIn, emails, websites. Literally, it's Aisha Corpas Wynn. If you went to AishaCorpasWynn.com, you're going to get a Win-Win Productions.
There it is.
And if you go to the AIChicks.com, you're going to get the AI Chicks. But I keep my brands very streamlined and straight to the point.
Through the entire podcast and your life.
Yes. That's one thing about me. I'm definitely going to stay consistent. And I'm unfortunately definitely going to always be a unhealthy overachiever. And I have to remember to take a rest and take take a break. But, it's all still blessings. And I'm very, very grateful for my life.
Aisha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
This was like super deep, super riveting and captivating to see what you guys wanted to hear about me and my life, because I feel like my life is so like regular and normal.
No, not
and
at
the
all.
questions you've been asking me, I was just like, oh, so taken back that you're even interested to hear about me and my life at that level. So I appreciate you guys, your interest in wanting to hear more about me and what I'm doing and what I'm building. And thank you guys for building this platform for others to learn and get inspired.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's what
I
shapes
think
you.
Yeah.
What shapes you.